Maamar Shekdimu from 1949. It's written from 1949. The heading is 1949. We're at the bottom of the page, the second line from the bottom, the last four words, I'll just briefly recap. We learned the Chazal said that when the Yidden prefaced Nasa before Nishma, the angels came and crowned the Yidden with two crowns, one for Nasa, one for Nishma. The Rebbe's question is, from the first part of the Chazal, it implies that the crowns were given for the prefacing, for the fact that they were able and willing to preface, we will do before we will understand. And the last clause of the Chazal implies that independent of their, courageous act of prefacing Nasa before Nishma, they got a crown for Nasa and Nishma, even if they would have not prefaced. That's the implication. So he says it seems like a contradiction. And then he also said, if indeed the crown is for the prefacing of Nasa before Nishma, they should have gotten one crown. It's one issue. Why two? So those were his two questions in the beginning. So, and to understand this, he starts explaining what's the whole idea of Nasa and Nishma. And he says that there's a concept called a Kabbalah soil, accepting the yoke. Everyone has heard of that and knows about it. And it's a real important, but yet, takes a lot of work. And he explains that when the Kabbalah soil is the klolis, it's the overall commitment. Before you go into the details are already, as he brings the example from Shema and V'hoyim Shemoya. V'hoyim Shemoya, the Chazal saying Gemara Brachas, is Kabbalah's mitzvahs, the details, this, that, no, everything. But Shema V'hafta is about the klal, the acceptance of Hashem, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, without knowing how that plays itself out. So the Rebbe, that's where we're at now. And he also said that the Baal Halachas Gedolos doesn't enumerate, when he enumerates all the 613 mitzvahs. You can actually read them, and actually in Tikkun, right? In Tikkun Leil Shuas, we enumerate all. I think we enumerate all the mitzvahs. It's either then or Hoshana Rabbah. By the way, since we're speaking about Tikkun, a person should endeavor to say it in Hebrew or English, and if you can't, and if you could say it through the 2 days. If it's too much to say it all at one time, say an hour or two one time, and say an hour or two another time. You know what I'm saying? And even if you have to after Shavuos, but it's important within the 7 days of Shavuos, the Hashlama, when they brought the Karbonis, you have 7 days from the Tashlumim of Shavuos to say Tikkun, Lubavitch, those that, not only Lubavitch, but the Chabad the Rebbe Rashab was very particular about that, and it says that when he traveled after Shavuos, he was saying Tikkun, because he said it, I think, both nights. We say it only one night. So the point is that every one of you should say Tikkun, and this, and the Litvaks learn the night, and of course, we should also learn after we finish or before Tikkun. But it's a short night, usually 3-4 o'clock. You already can go to the mikveh or go to sleep, whatever. So, by the time you finish, in America for sure, in Eretz Yisrael, I think it's an hour or two before. But whatever, it's not such a long night. So, by the time you sit down, and just a piece of advice, if the shul's open, if your shul's not open by then, but if it's open, it's better to go to the shul to say Tikkun, because in the house you fall asleep on the couch. So, yeah.
Rabbi, what's the reason? I mean, is it because of practicality that Chabad doesn't stay up all night till nates and then davens, and then they daven like at 9-10 o'clock?
It's not the practice. Chabad, first of all, it doesn't say it anywhere. You should just know it doesn't say it anywhere, and you could be I'm sure there were great Chabadniks, both in America and Eretz Yisrael, who davened at the nates. I'm convinced. But the overall idea is that davening should be calm and thoughtful and meditative, and just to rush 1, 2, 3 it's not davening. You just so it's better to go to sleep for 3, 4, 5 hours, 3, 4 hours, a few hours. Again, you can go to sleep as early, I think, like 4 o'clock, 4 to 4:30, And if you get up you get up 8:30, you get 4 hours of sleep. You say you still make Shema, and you go to shul. That's the idea, but it's not written Yoni anywhere. It's not written in the Minhagim. So if a person knows that if they lay down to sleep, they're not going to get up to 10, 11 and maybe miss Krishma, then they should do it in the morning. You understand? I mean, but if you have a choice, then we go that route. And it's not, you see in the community, some shuls, it's not a Chabad thing. Some shuls do it this way, some people do it this way. Whatever you do is kosher. But let's go back. The more important thing is to say the tikkun. I was saying that the Litvaks, they learn at night and they don't say tikkun. Chasidim and Sfardim say tikkun. So, do what what your minig is, and if your minig is to do so, if it's difficult sometimes. So, I fall asleep at night. I have my eyes shut down. I can, not because just I fall asleep. So, what I do is I get up. I get up very early and I finish tikkun in the morning, and I get up usually at 4:30, and I go to the mikveh, and then I finish tikkun. Because according to Kabbalah, you're supposed to go to the mikveh at dawn, Shavuos night, because that's the moment that was Kabbalah's HaTorah. I'm just saying, the best thing is to be up all night, and if you could do it, you should do that. If you can't do it, even if you sleep, maybe try to get up early, go to the mikveh, and if the mikvehs are open. Okay, let's go to the Maamar. Ukamay Kain, the bottom of 316. So I was saying the Baal Halachas Gedolos does not enumerate the mitzvah of Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem your God, as one of the 613 mitzvahs. I think the Rambam does. Others who enumerate the mitzvah do, but he doesn't. Why? Because his argument is, Hillel, it's a mitzvah klolis. It's a general mitzvah. A mitzvah that's enumerated is put on tefillin, build a sukkah, get married, don't do this sin, don't do that sin, right? That transgression. It's a prat, it's a detail. So that I enumerate. But I don't enumerate a generality. So his argument is that it's not, that's why he doesn't enumerate it. And Moshe, what does he say? He says, but what gives us the koyach to do the 613 details? It's Anochi Hashem Elokecha. The overall acceptance that I am God, your God. And that's what he calls a mitzvah klolis. So the Predikat Rebbe here brings that as a support to his idea of understanding how important Kabbalah soil is. Now let's continue. So too, hu bagdomas nase lenishma is regarding the matter of prefacing, we shall act nase lenishma before we shall understand. The nishma hu befrati ha-mitzvahs. Nishma deals with the details. The Peirush Nishma. What does Nishma is? Top of 317. Hu al derech Shema Yisrael. Okay. We say, listen, hear, O Israel. Shema Yisrael. What do you mean hear? Just open, hear with your ears. More so. Then shehu hasoge v'havona al yedei asifas v'kibetz hakoiches. Shema has three meanings. Listen to this. You understand? Shema means hear. Shema means understand. And Shema means gather. Three meanings. Based on Chazal and Psukim, and based on Psukim. So here he brings the taich. He connects the two, or the three. Hear, by understanding, and gathering all your soul powers, all of yourself, gather it together while you recite Shema, think about it, understand it, and then you will really hear it. Did you ever hear someone explain Shema that way? That's what it says in Chasidus Chabad. Again, Shema means hear, listen. Shema means understand, and Shema means gather. Asifah, lesof. So Chabad Chassidus says they're all connected. When you gather all of your soul powers, your Ava, your love, your Gvura, your Rachamim, all of the talents, all of you. You gather it together in one place. And then you understand it, Yoni, and you focus on it, and you think about it through meditation, through thought. Then, Shema, you really hear it. And that's why, as a parenthetical note, in Lubavitch, there were Chasidim, big Chasidim, Rabbi Avram Mayor, people who I knew and I saw, and others, when they said Shema, they paused for a long time. 10, 15 minutes, a half an hour, they went into meditation. It's not just, Ma Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, gone, goodbye, next. Or the Yekah says, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Fasta eine Minute. It took me 1 minute. And that's also good, but that's not the Shema of Chabad, his bonus. The real Shema of Chabad, his bonus, is the three things coming together. That's a lot of work. You got to gather all of yourself. Where am I? I'm scattered. I'm here when I eat. I'm here when I work. I'm there when I learn. Where am I? You got to bring it all together. And then when you bring it together, you have to understand, what am I bringing together? And once you bring it together, then, and you understand it, then you hear it. So it's a whole different Shema. And this takes a lot of mind work. So the Rebbe says here in this one line, top of 317, Shehu hasogev v'havona. Shema means the comprehension and understanding of the idea, al yidei asifes v'kibutz hakoiches, through gathering and bringing together the koiches. Nishma, says the Rebbe, just as this is true for Shema, so it's true for what? For Nishma. We shall listen. It means you should incline your heart and your soul lishmeya ulahakshiv, to listen, to pay attention. How and what is God's divine will in his detailed decrees. Listen. In other words, Hashem says, Bikur Chaylim. What is behind visiting the sick? Is it just a good act and a proper ethical act of visiting someone who's not well? For that, you don't need the Torah. Listen and pay attention to the deeper message within each mitzvah. Or Yoni, when you put on tefillin in the morning, it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch, just in plain Shulchan Aruch. The idea is l'shabed halev hamoyach. L'shabed. Shibud means a mortgage, right? To mortgage your heart and your mind. Every one of us knows when we owe a mortgage, we're committed until we pay that mortgage. The bank owns the house or the apartment. L'shabed halev hamoyach. Your lev, your heart, and your mayach is mortgaged to Hashem. He owns it. I don't own it. But it's my heart and it's my brain. Ha ha! You have it all wrong. It's his. And he loaned it to you. And if you do what you're supposed to, it becomes yours. You know what I'm saying? Spiritually speaking. Continue. So that's what the Rebbe says. This is something you have to be, he uses the words, sheyate liboy. V'nafshoy lahakshiv. There is l'shmaya, to listen, Hillel, ulahakshiv, to pay attention. How many times do we hear something, but we're not hakshava, we're not paying attention? So the Rebbe says, Nishma implies not only that they understood their learning, not only they said, listen, Hashem, you want us to keep Shabbos? We're keeping Shabbos. Then they said, let's understand Shabbos. Nishma, they learned about Shabbos. Here the Rebbe is saying, it's not only they learned about Shabbos, they paid attention to Shabbos. That's much more than just learning about Shabbos and understanding Shabbos. It's getting it, focusing, hakshava. That's what he adds over here. And the same is true for all mitzvahs and all, he calls them gezeiros, all decrees of Hashem. The b'chol mitzvah hari prat mirotzen elyon, each mitzvah is a detail of God's will, Baruch Hu, blessed be, Shabbat b'midah v'shir, that has come down specifically in a measured way, but if in kach in such a way, 4 corners of tefillin and not 5. Exactly 2 black straps and not green. Otherwise, you're not putting on tefillin. You're not. You're doing something that makes you feel good, but you're not doing His will. If we do, based on the will as Hashem planted them in this mitzvah, then Hashem illuminates that mitzvah. Very important point here, fellas. Many people get excited about mitzvahs and do and right, and all of a sudden they add a little twist to the right and a twist to the left, and all of a sudden it's not the mitzvah in its pure form. There's horns to the mitzvah and fringes to the mitzvah and all kinds of things to the mitzvah. Guess what? God is not in that mitzvah. Lo yisosif v'lo yisigra. In Chumash Devarim, don't add and don't detract. You want to do other things to enhance yourself and no problem, but keep it clear. Know what the mitzvah is and know what your own thing is. So I'm not saying there's no room for individual expression. Now, let me just finish. But we have to be careful to know what is the mitzvah. And the Ratzon Hashem, you see the language here in the Maamar, is only there when you do the mitzvah. Mitzvah means the commander's commandment, not your commandment, not my commandment. My commandment doesn't draw down the Ratzon Hashem. It draws down a great feeling. I don't want to go into it, but in 1960s with timid literacy, with LSD. So there were people, not just one person, there were people who started to say that let's take LSD and get this great experience where you know, and it's like you can meditate and you can, and the Rebbe said, and the Rebbe wrote about this. You should know, there's a letter from the Rebbe about LSD. And the Rebbe writes, it's not a derech HaTorah. You know, it's interesting. The Rebbe did not say, and I don't know about this field, maybe, I'm sure Hillel knows a lot more from his knowledge, and studies. It could be, you could reach a certain tremendous experience. Possibly. But it's not derech HaTorah. You see? So if it's not derech HaTorah, don't turn it into Torah. Say it's my thing. I need it. No problem. Because there were those that were suggesting to the Rebbe to take LSD for davening and learning. Yeah, you're laughing. There was a different time, So the Rebbe said, it's not derech HaTorah. That's the point here. The Ratzon Hashem is only in derech HaTorah. That's something we have to always remember. And, I one more point I know you guys want to comment, and I'll let you in a moment. So there were people over, last 100 years, not just in America, and not just in Eretz Yisrael, but also, elsewhere, that had a great ideas, but at the end of the day, didn't go anywhere. Why? Because it wasn't the derech Hashem. Yes, it was something that turned on people, and it spoke to people, and that's all very good, but that's not koveya. That doesn't set the holy agenda. Give me a second. My phone, I'm on Facebook here, and the phone over here needs to be recharged. Give me a second to get the plug, please, okay?
Hello. How you doing?
Hey, Yoni. Good, Baruch Hashem. Doing fine.
You got power today, huh?
Oh, yesterday was hard. You were that power?
Power.
Okay, let's go one by one. Yoni, you wanted to say something, then Moshe, and then Hillel. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to. Yeah, I just wanted. You gave an example of what we were just about LSD. You gave an example. I wanted to ask you also to give an example, but something maybe a little bit more. Let's say, what would be an example of something like a fringe of a mitzvah, like so today? In other words, I could hear in the '60s, and '70s, maybe, but today, you don't generally hear people, wanting to start taking, LSD, before davening.
Okay, I'll give you an example. It's a fair question. It's a fair question. But, today there's a new thing called Kiddush clubs. It's not new, but it's become very popular. Then there's something else called Bein HaShmoshos. You know about Bein HaShmoshos? I don't know if it's in the Litvak world or the Yeshivish world or the Karlbach world.
What is that?
It's,
what is that? That's interesting. That I haven't heard of.
That's before.
Rabbi, they call it something else. They call it a pre-Shabbos chill.
Okay, so here they call it pre-Shabbos chill, and I heard of it in America as Bein HaShmoshos. What is that? That before Kabbalah, before Friday, before Shabbos, you cut the shul a little early, or between Mincha and Ma'ariv, and you take a few shots of alcohol, and then so therefore when it.
Or other stuff, really.
Oh, okay. See, so that I'm not even aware of. Actually, I am aware of it from the 1980s in Marin County. I told you I had a friend. She lives in Eretz Yisrael, and today. But she and a group, told me they smoke up before Kabbalah Shabbos. Anyway, so now, is there something wrong halachically to kind of have l'chaims before Kabbalah Shabbos? No, but it's not the derech haTorah. So, my daughter and son-in-law in Tel Aviv. They have that for those that want, and I've been in shul. I'm sitting on my sitter, and they go over and they're saying l'chaim. It's not terrible. It's not a sin, but it's not the derech Hashem that we lived with and davened with for the last 100 years. So that's all I'm saying. So here he talks about adding Moshe to a mitzvah. Or subtracting, and he says it's not the will of God, so God is not in that mitzvah. Right? In the example I'm giving you, it's not a sin to have a few shots before Kabbalah Shabbos. Okay? Or let's say, another example. Recently, a professor, I don't want to say his name, I think he might be Orthodox, but he's very bitter against Orthodox people. I don't know why, he must have had some bad experience. Could be grew up Hasidic years ago, and he's very popular and very knowledgeable. So, with the Zoom, he decided to make a Zoom Seder, and he publicized and he raised money, and it was Pashut. So he's not frum, I guess. It was maybe he is. He was Chilul Shabbos, and he said because of Corona, I can do a Zoom Seder. Now I'm not paskening. I'm just saying, Are you God? Do you have a bezdin to make such a ruling that you're allowed to make a Zoom Seder? In other words, some people by themselves, singles. It's very lonely. It's Pesach night. So his idea was that in this situation, it's mutter to have you put on your computer and do a Zoom Seder. Is the Ratzon Hashem there? The answer is, if there's halachic backing, kol hakavod, and if not, no, because you decide. Or let's take the classical example. Driving to shul on Shabbos, no? Someone wants to be in shul, but he's not Shemesh Shabbos, and he wants to drive to shul. Is that Ratzon Hashem? Is that davening considered the will of Hashem? We know the answer is it's not. L'poy, when he davens, he davens. But you can't say Hashem would rather you be home and not drive to shul than come to the shul. Mitzvah ba'avera, right. But most people don't know any better, and that's why, but I'm talking now, if you think about it, if you know better, don't, yes, Moshe, what?
I thought you were going to go in the direction of I'll just give you an example. I thought you were going to go, let's take extremist, very, 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 extremist groups, just as an example, I don't want to be negative, but you have in Beit Shemesh, you have we'll call here's an example, we'll call it the Burqa ladies.
Oh.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. I don't, forgive me but like that, let's say you see something like that, you pass by someone like that, and you ask yourself, what, is that really what Hashem wants? Is that really in the framework and the getter of part of the mitzvah of, dressing in a snua way, or is that already a fringe? I don't mean no pun intended. But is that already like a something that's not really? It's like.
Okay, so so the Burqa ladies are to me, it's like drinking shots of alcohol before davening. Is it a sin to dress that way? Is it a sin? You're going to say what? You're going to say it's a chilul Hashem? It's definitely not, excuse the expression, normal. It's not the norm. But here we're talking about, I want to be clear, we're talking here about something that is lo sosif and lo sigra. It's an aveda. You have to make a distinction between what's an aveda and what's just mishagas. 1 second, Hillel, go ahead.
Just want to ask a shaila on the question of Burqa ladies. Would that be chukas hagoyim? If they adopted living in Muslim culture, would that be?
I want to tell you when I had, still have, a museum, a small museum of clothing, and I researched a lot about clothing. Do you know that some of our dress in various communities might be because the way we learned from the Goyim how they dressed in that community?
Well, in Chasidus clothing, right?
Yeah, but not only that, the North African, it seems very clear the North African dress, it came from the Muslim countries. Novus then. It was adapted by Klal Yisrael, or a significant part, with a Torah backing of Rabbanim, etc. So we transformed it. Just like the Rebbe in 1974, I believe, he said you should put the Marseillaise from the French national anthem, the words of Aderes Emunah. So he transformed it as a tzaddik. So whether it's a tzaddik, whether it's a Rabbanim and a Bezdin, so if these people have, Rabbanim, that say that you're allowed to dress that way, and I today you can get Rabbanim for everything, then I'm not sure it would be Chukas HaGoyim. But it's still odd. Yonah, did you want to say something, or?
Yeah. So basically, I want to know what's the difference between a chumrah that's a mishagas chumrah and a chumrah that has backing.
Okay. And I'm going to say something, and I don't mean you, please. So, you know the way I talk and I teach. So I just talk about the Indian. I really don't mean you. A beard is according to halacha, strict halacha. You don't. It's not a violation. 100 million% of halacha if you don't have a beard. According to the Kabbalah, it's the biggest violation. Or better said, not a violation. You're missing a tremendous amount of kedusha that the beard brings to a person. That's what it says in the Zayah HaKadosh. So that's a chumrah, right? It's a chumrah. It's a chumrah, but it's a chumrah, yes, dvorim begoy. It has strong basis. And those are today, you know, and with even the Litvische Gedolim from the Chazonish, the Chafetz Chaim, all the ones that I wrote about in this book, they were so much for the beard. And again, I'm not talking about now how you shave, because that could be halachic violations of the shaver and all that. But I'm talking about just the beard itself. So that's an example of a person has to, you know, look at himself. Do I want this? Do I, you know, or I'm not up to that yet. So that's an example to answer your question. And there are many such inyanim. And if we learn, that's why it's so important to learn. And learn yourself, not what others tell you. I just told you the Zohar HaKadosh. If you're interested in this topic, then you should go and get a Zohar, find where it says it, learn it, think about it, and then make your decision. You understand? That's called, I read, but most people don't do that. They listen to a rabbi, they listen to a shir, they grew up a certain way, and they, decide in their life, and we know many people, they didn't have beards during their younger years, and as they got older and they started to think more about 120, they grew beards. And kol hakavod, you know what I'm saying? In other words, in principle, they believed the beard. They wanted, but for whatever reason, whether their wives didn't want them to have it, whether they felt it's no good for parnasa, and I'm not justifying those reasons, I'm just saying for whatever reason. So and the same is true with chumras. What time is it?
20 to 3.
Okay, we have another few minutes. Let's go back to the text, okay?
Rabbi, you said what a chumrah, what a good chumrah is. What is a bad chumrah? Meaning, like, what would be the flip side of what you're saying? A mishigas.
It's not a mishigas. A bad chumrah is Moshe wants always practical things. So I'm going to give a practical thing, but maybe it's too practical. Young people who get married, some of them who are very religious, they act in self-holiness, denying the conjugal rights that their wives are entitled to and halacha supports. Not maybe completely, but again, maybe today this example is also everyone does what they want. But it used to be, because the Gemara says that a Talmud Chacham should just be with his wife just Friday night. You know the Gemara. But I'm a newly married man, etc. So his chumrah Yoni leads to a kula. And I don't know if you're aware, but there's one Hasidic community. Today, it's already been, they suffered a lot from this issue. The Gerach Hasidim, I don't know if you're aware of it. The Gerach Hasidim are very big in this area. They don't walk in the street. I'm talking about the real Gerahs. They don't walk in the street with their wives. And they're very stringent in this area. And I think there might be a month or maybe more, I'm not sure, that they abstain from each other. So there's some very heavy chumras. And we have stats on comparing the Gerach Hasidim to other groups. There was more divorce in Ger than in other groups. This, again, their Rebbe now, and maybe the one before, made a change, and that's why he told them to dress very nicely and pretty to the women, to entice their husbands. Okay, I'm not saying he said it openly, but there is this underlying current. This was a counter to the other extreme, because he saw that there was a real problem in the community in this area. I mean, I know Gary here in Brooklyn, in Borough Park, very nice people, divorced. And I was told, I didn't do a study, so I was told that it has to do because of this area. So here you have Yoni Chumrah. You want to be so frum, and it leads to breakups. Another area, the Basho. You know what the Basho is, right? You guys know what the Basho is? In the Hasidic community, the parents, a shotgun and the parents match up two people, and then they think it's a good match, and before they announce the engagement, they have them meet. It used to be one time. Since the parents are on the same page, they're hopeful, and usually they say they see eye to eye in one time meeting each other, which is pretty difficult to understand, but that's the way it's been, and it's worked for thousands and thousands of people, so I'm not in a position to belittle it. Now, and we have neighbors, right? We live in Borough Park. Now there's been a real change. They're meeting. They have that show, but it's not just one time. And you're gonna laugh. It's 4 times. It's 5 times, and they actually go out. The basho used to be that the boy and the girl came to the house of one of the parents. I think they would be in another room, and they allowed the boy and the girl to meet on their own. Now there's a change. Again, by the very Chasidus, it's not that way. Because they're seeing that the breakups of engagements and divorce. So these are all examples.